Spin to win is the idea that if you want to go fast while riding a bike, it's more efficient and overall better for you to spin a higher cadence with a lower gear ratio compared to grinding a bigger gear ratio at a lower cadence. And that idea never quite made its way to fixed gear riding, probably because we have this idea that big ratio means big leg means strong rider, big is fast. I tried spin to win for 30 days on both of my fixed gears. Here's how it went. My Wabi Special is 4720, which is pretty low. That's a 32C tire, which equals 63 gear inches. And then on my Wabi Thunder, it's a 4219. And with 43C tires, that is 61 gear inches. And here in this handy dandy chart, you can see how fast I'm spinning at these basic speed benchmarks. And both of my bikes are brakeless fixed gear, so there's absolutely no cheating, there's no changing gears. I was fully committed to doing this for 30 days. I went in with the mindset that I was going to hate it, and for the first week, that was definitely true. Just riding my very weeny 2-mile loop around my neighborhood, I was super gassed and I would be drenched in sweat. It was kind of disgusting. It would look like I just went out for like a 4 or 5 mile run. I was so sweaty after coming back from a measly 2-mile ride from spinning around the lake. And on top of that, my average speed for my rides was about 2 miles an hour slower, which is pretty pathetic for how much work I felt like I was putting in, and just being completely gassed after like a 7-minute ride. And maintaining 14 miles an hour, which is like less than casual group ride speed, felt like hard work. I was not having a good time. Week 2 was a little bit better. Don't get me wrong, it still sucks. I felt gassed after a measly 6-mile ride instead of 2. And I would still be slower than average by about 1 mile per hour, which admittedly is a lot. And when you're trying to pedal so fast, I would feel my body like bouncing in the saddle, where I would get around 90 to 100 RPM. It's just that like my hip flexor muscles, as I'm guessing what's at play here, just were too tense from pushing a higher gear ratio for my entire cycling career, and they just weren't used to doing that quick of a movement, so I would end up bouncing in the saddle a lot. Even though I felt like I could physically go faster, I felt like I had to slow down so that I wouldn't be bouncing on top of my saddle. And maintaining around 15 miles an hour, which is just like casual conversational group ride pace, felt like really hard work. But at least I could do it. The wildest thing happened because on week 3, I felt like spin to win just suddenly clicked. I would still bounce at higher RPMs, but it would be at around 110 RPM instead of 90. The really magical thing that happened for me during week 3 is that after my rides, as short as like 6 to 10 miles, when I would finish my ride, I would have the runner's high and my head would be buzzing with this clear-headed energy, and I would just feel so amazing. And my rides, they still felt really dense. It would feel like I would be riding probably twice as far when spinning to win compared to when I was on my normal ratio, which is 49-17. But after like 5 minutes of rest, the runner's high would kick in and I would feel amazing for the rest of the day. And I felt like my body would recover a lot faster from spinning, like my legs wouldn't be as sore compared to grinding a bigger gear ratio. And another thing that really clicked for me during week 3 is that I was riding pretty much just as fast on my spinny gear ratios compared to my normal bigger gear ratios. I could comfortably cruise for extended periods of time around 16.5 to 18 to even 20 miles an hour. It mentally felt like my ride was way longer, because probably somewhere in the back of my subconscious that my mind is calculating how far a bike ride is based on how many pedal strokes I put in. And then in week 4, I really understood why it's called spin to win. Just my average speed for the rides, I was going about 0.5 miles per hour faster than on my regular gear ratio. Simply put, that's a lot. Like, I'm not doing a super scientific test by any means. I'm just using my Strava data, just my average speed for the ride, and there's tons of factors from wind to traffic to temperature. And I know this is gonna sound bad, but legit, foam rolling was the most painful part of my workouts before, but now it actually felt good to get what little tension was in my legs out, and it was actually relaxing. And overall, I just felt more limber and lighter, and that I wasn't so tense. And I didn't know that I was so tense until I gave my body a chance to get rid of all this tension that was built up over a decade in my legs. So is spinning winning? For me, yes. A big part of that, I feel like, is because I mostly ride in the suburbs. There's a lot of starting up, slowing down, and those windows where you're starting up and slowing down at a light or at a stop sign or an intersection are a lot bigger when you're on a bigger gear ratio versus a smaller gear ratio. I feel like I can accelerate a lot faster and I can stop a lot faster when I'm on a smaller gear ratio, so that I can maintain my up to speed a lot more consistently compared to a bigger ratio. It is significantly easier to get uphill, like that's why gears exist. Off-road feels a lot easier, like I'm able to maintain a lot more control over my bike. Even when I am riding with a heavy 20+ pound load in my front basket on my Wabi Thunder, I feel like it's easier for me to maintain my speed against headwinds. We don't have hills here, but we do have a lot of pretty gnarly headwinds, and I feel like I can tuck in the drops and just put my head down and maintain my speed better when I'm on a spinny gear ratio. My guess is it's probably because I can use my cardiovascular system and ramp that up a lot more efficiently than I could ramp up the muscles in my legs. Once the muscles in my legs are tired, that's it. I'm not going to be pushing any harder if there's a headwind against me. Just being able to feel lighter, to feel more flexible, to feel more limber, it's a freeing experience, and it's something that I'm not sure I could sacrifice if I want to go back up to a bigger ratio just for the name of Fixie points. Like, I'm faster this way anyway. On top of that, I had a previous knee injury from biking too much. I saw a sports injury specialist doctor who did a whole ultrasound on my knee, and he found that my kneecap was getting pulled 2 centimeters outward because the muscles that are used on the side of my leg were just too strong compared to the inside muscles. So those muscles were pulling my kneecap this way. I was afraid that I would not be able to ride my bike again if this did not heal completely properly. And that was last year. And while I was riding a bigger gear ratio, I did feel like my knee was mostly better, but not completely better. Like sometimes the knee pain would creep back in if I would ride my bike for extended periods of time, a week or 2 weeks, and I didn't stretch or foam roll. But with spinning a lower gear ratio at higher RPMs, the knee pain is just completely gone. I am healed. And I also feel like spinning more evenly works out my thighs and calves. When I was pushing a bigger gear ratio, I felt pretty like thigh dense, but even in just 1 month or so of spinning to win, I feel like I've gotten a lot more toned in my calves. And for fixed gear specifically, I feel like I have a lot more control over my bike. And I can just accelerate and stop a lot more quickly. Just feel like I'm more in tune with my bike. I would definitely say spinning is winning, but it's not perfect. There is a learning curve. Even though I am accustomed to it now, it's still way sweatier than pushing a higher ratio at a lower RPM. My thighs are just noticeably less buff compared to when I'm pushing a higher gear ratio. My top speed is lower, but that's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make because I rarely ever sprint that hard anyway, because I hate sprinting. It hurts my lungs. Especially for us fixed gear riders, we may be artificially limiting ourselves, which is kind of the whole point of fixed gear, I get it. But we may be riding gear ratios that are too big for us and not optimal for us because we're stuck in this mindset of big ratio is strong rider. They ride big ratio on track. Track is fast. Small ratio puny. Small ratio weak. Artificially limiting ourselves in this way may be preventing us from growing as riders. And it's like, yeah, I understand that the whole point of riding a fixed gear is that it does limit you and that you do have to become a stronger rider to overcome that. But the other side of the coin of fixed gear riding is that we build our bikes to our tastes that are personal, unique to us. What's a good ratio for you may not be a good ratio for me. So why is everybody riding 48-17? At the end of the day, I'm literally appreciably faster on a spinnier gear ratio. And that is something that I really did not expect to happen. On top of that, I get a runner's high and feel incredible for a higher percentage of my rides. And my body is just appreciably healthier and in less pain every day. And I would have never had this perspective if I didn't try out a spinny gear ratio and let my body heal. The bottom line is I have more fun when I'm riding a spinny gear ratio currently, so that's what I'm going to keep on riding. Will I change in the future? Maybe. For the foreseeable future though, I'm gonna keep spinning to win. So if you are interested in trying out this spin to win experiment on your fixed gear bike, I say go for it. It's one of the most affordable ways that can completely change the way that you ride your bike, and it might even make you faster, it might even make you healthier. Be sure to check out the Amazon link in the description for just a 20-tooth cog. And that 20-tooth cog may completely change the way that you ride your fixed gear bike, or any bike really, forever. I'm not exaggerating. I haven't even done hills yet, but I'm pretty convinced that spinning is winning. Just like this message from our sponsor, Wabi Cycles. Whether it's ideas or bikes, time will separate the good from the best. And today's video's sponsor, Wabi Cycles, has been making the same fixed gears since 2009. I have two bikes, a Wabi Special and now a Wabi Thunder. I only care to own Wabis because they're just the most fun bikes I've ever ridden. Constructed out of lightweight Reynolds 725 tubing from the UK, or Columbus Spirit tubing from Italy. That's like that top tier Columbus tubing. Wabi's fixed gear and single speed bikes are responsive, lively, and solidly built. Wabi allows you to customize the fine details of your bike, from handlebar choice to gearing to stem length, so you can have a bike that is super dialed in right out of the box. If you have any questions about Wabis, don't ask me. Fun fact, I don't work for Wabi. Wabi is actually a real brick and mortar bike shop located in Denver, Colorado. You could email them, you could call them, you could drop them a message on Instagram, and they'll be happy to help you with whatever questions that you have and get you on a bike that you love. If you're interested, be sure to check out Wabi Cycles, linked in the description. And Fixie famous shoutouts to David K, Salvador Lombroso, Julian Corona, Brandon Black, Brent David, Mario Perez, Ted Onchi, and Bracelet for helping to make these fixed gear videos possible through their support on Patreon. And remember that life is short, but don't make it shorter, so be sure to ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous.